Warning. The following review covers material that ranges from the dirtiest aspects of life to the downright worst horror cinema has to offer. Do not attempt any of the stunts you're about to see.
Hello and welcome to Confused Reviews, where a cartoon drawing reviews movies. Years ago, when I was but a microscopic amoeba, I reviewed the first two entries in the average at best Jeepers Creepers franchise. So long ago, in fact, that we didn't even have a trailer, release date, or anything really regarding a third installment. Truthfully, the most shocking thing to come out of those reviews was not the long wait in between movies, but the revelation that people actually really like these movies. Now sure, there are quality aspects of both, but I've always considered them lukewarm at their best, and almost unwatchable at their worst. And now that I'm a self-proclaimed vet of mediocre reviews on terrible horror slop, I can't wait to tear into this one.
Finally!
So how did we get here? Well, like oh so many movie sequels, a third entry was in development before two even hit theaters, with the intended title of Jeepers Creepers 3, The Creeper Walks Among Us, and was meant to be direct to your local $5 Walmart movie bin. That didn't end up materializing, and after some rewrites, Jeepers Creepers Cathedral was the next treatment, and sought to bring back an older, grittier Trish 23 years after Derry went blind. Nevertheless, conflicting reports say Cathedral story elements were thrown out well over a decade ago, but really, who the fuck cares? Then around 2017, it was announced a third movie was hitting the big screen for one night. Why that was will become clear in a bit. Part 3's alleged plot follows a cookie-cutter cop and a band of useless buffoons as they hunt for the creeper. And no, I don't mean Victor Salva. Yes, this big bitch has been the subject of such outrage over the years. You see, originally I glossed over all of the vile and sickening shit this series' writer-director found himself in back then, because I try to keep all of my reviews fairly light. After all, the gimmick is stupid.
We know!
And not meant to be some serious fucking review noir.
It's a joke. It's all a joke.
But not today. I'm not even in the same stratosphere to claim I'm near the center of the moral compass. I thought about this for a long time, and looking at all the facts, I wouldn't feel right not talking about it. Because in 1988, this now deflated balloon filmed himself taking advantage of the movie Clownhouse's 12-year-old star. Once the damage was already done, he was found to be in possession of said CP, and ended up being sentenced to a shockingly lenient and extremely upsetting 3 years, as well as having to register as a sex offender. After serving a baffling 15 months, he was free to go on and direct Powder for the money-loving Rat soon after, especially considering that its plot has been seen as a defense from Salva to play victim for being a predator. All I know is that this supersized shitbag is just the next in line. Now, legally I can't directly threaten this guzzling, diddling dick, but I'm sure this review will explore a few creative workarounds.
I just want to talk to him.
Dad, this is ridiculous!
I just want to talk to him. I just want to talk to him.
But I sure as hell can't stand it when they're allowed to make putrid, pathetic movies. So in the spirit of the one and only Chris Hansen, Jeepers Creepers 3, why don't you have a fucking seat?
What are you doing here today?
Nothing. It's my first time. I just drove 17 hours to get here to say I wasn't coming.
While this isn't some definitive retribution, it is my small way of justice, or at least in theory.
Max, what do you want for dinner?
Justice.
I don't know if it's a demon or a devil, or just some hungry thing from some dark place in time.
Now let's try and separate the art from the once very large artist once again, and take a look at what happens when you take Pennywise's gimmick and subtract 4 years. This is Jeepers Creepers 3. The movie starts before the events of the movie itself, meaning right now is 23 years ago, while the plot we'll get into in a minute will be 23 years later, and takes place after the events of Jeepers Creepers, and will finally end before the bus butchering in Jeepers Creepers 2. Are all of you writing this down? Awesome. We fade out from his signature throwing star to see Bo Duke here is in serious trouble. After a near miss and retracting the bones, the hick is just carried away instead. If only this good Samaritan would just go. Not sure why he stuck around for so long. Transitioning 2 decades down the line, we hop back to the aftermath of the hospital from the first, and that the creeper left his wheels behind. The cops on duty consist of Paul Blart, Riot Cop, who is actually Sergeant Tubbs, portrayed once again by Brandon Smith. Also this...
I want to know for what.
Jackass. Too bad Discount Dewey didn't see the magic movie spikes. In all seriousness, clearly the roof and floor couldn't house these metal miracles, but it's just going to keep coming back up later. So allow me to share with you this gloriously horrendous entry on the IMDb trivia page.
Several scenes show the truck has deadly, gate-like spikes that come from the top and bottom of the rear cargo opening. Yet from the outside of the truck, there's no apparatus for these spikes to exist. Although it's possible, since it is implied that the truck is supernatural in nature, perhaps it can disobey the basic laws of mortal physics.
What the fuck does that even mean? Rolling up on scene is Sheriff Dan, played by Stan Shaw, filling in the cowboy-hatted seasoned detective role.
Closest they ever got to a cow is when they stopped to take a piss at an Arby's.
Because I can't even remember this dude's name, and Creighton Duke is too busy being fucking useless. He does the obligatory tough guy routine.
I'll have you know, I stubbed my toe last week while watering my spice garden, and I only cried for 20 minutes.
But it's interrupted by the slaughterhouse on wheels revealing it has one of Scorpion's coolest powers.
Get over here! Fatality.
Thankfully, our bad guy doesn't appreciate a towing fee, so he one-ups GTA 5 and is able to intercept the vehicle before it arrives. Oh, and he even has his fancy axe that I guess was at the dry cleaners in part 2. Plus, he teen wolfs his way out of the ticket. But he realizes he forgot his phone and decides, since I'm already here. Then, just like Poe, a tree, we fly over to some birds, doing what they do.
Waka 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 waka, say nevermore.
And in one of the most ugly, terribly shot scenes from recent memory, Galen Brandon, played by Meg Foster, has a little pep talk with her dead son Kenny, who is this guy I've already forgotten. He's returned as a Force ghost to explain the plot because, well, that's just easier to write, and he informs his aging mother that the creeper is en route to find her, and whatever is buried on the land. And no, it's not a bunch of gold, unfortunately.
Where's the fight? On its way.
This useless display of hysterics is also seen by Gabrielle Hugh, who plays Addison. She's stuck with her crackpot grandma, and this horse girl really just wants to get out and see the big city. However, this flick isn't really in the market for serious family drama, so we head back to the cops who are putting together Task Force S. For stupid. But there is a one-man gun measuring contest, where we see a Gatling gun that will certainly be coming back later on, so don't worry. Back with our young heroine, we see the mostly useless Gracie, played by Megan Wright, and Kirk, who all you need to do is take a peek at to know he's one of the biggest pieces of shit since the last Kirk we talked about.
You better watch your butt, man. Okay.
Performing all the drywall punching stereotypes minus a fucking Monster Energy headband, played by Ryan Moore.
It's a wild animal, idiot. It's kill or be killed.
Do you get it? Sick fucking symbolism, dude. Anyway, whatever Addison came here for wasn't there, so she leaves. That mindset is present for most of this movie's scenes. But Kirk and his boys show off some mid-range dirt bike skills and prove to look eerily similar to a leveled up Stranger Things cast. Weird. They find the creeper car having a picnic in the middle of a field, and debate over how to pronounce the license plate, as well as the validity of the Legend of Jeepers Creepers.
It's warm. Of course it's warm, you dipshit. It's been sitting out in the sun.
Okay, so I get these assholes are trying to be edgy and whatnot, but if this guy's already a mythic figure along with this rust bucket, you'd think they'd be a little more fearful and intrigued to figure out whether it's real or a hoax. I'd also have shot this at night and made the 20-somethings act a little more reserved and less...
Man, I say we get the hell out of here.
Like a failed fan film. I know I've got no room to talk, but who was this meant to frighten? Blind people?
Kiss my ass, you ugly old bitch!
Whoa, no need to talk to Meg Foster like that. After unlocking the tuna can, it does the same two things it did earlier, but in broad daylight and with zero tension. And we're only a half hour in. Oh boy. With one dickhead down, we get one cool shot that immediately flies into more bogus acting from Matthew Lillard if his dad was a Muppet. And, oh, would you look at that, the villain finally showed up. I bet he's got some dumb teenager proximity sensor welded into the dash. Returning for the third time in a row, Jonathan Breck reprises his role, with the creeper having taken up a part-time job at Target and looking so shiny you'd think he raided The Rock's baby oil cabinet. Now, a lot of fans like to point to the creeper's behavior and too, like he's attempting a dollar store Freddy impression. So if I have to give this movie any brownie points, at least he's not blatantly trying to be Freddy from The Dream Child. After all, we've got Doing Freddy, but slightly worse covered. Oh, and with one precise javelin toss, two of the X-Game enthusiasts forget the cardinal rule. If some mysterious demonic entity with unexplained reasoning and unexplored backstory is ever after you with a bony board pointed right at you, run in a zigzag. Okay, this kill wasn't bad.
Fatality.
Hold that thought though, as that's more than enough scary movie stuff. Switching back to Addison, we get more totally uninteresting subplots about feeding the horse from the TriStar logo, and this sun-spotted spud who really wants to get under Addison's mane. This is Buddy Hooks, played by Chester Rushing. Is it just me, or does that name sound like if the Cheetos mascot was from Moscow?
Suka.
The nice guy act is about as appealing as leaving milk in the hot sun, so breezing past it, Galen is digging for something, and the creeper realizes one of the doe-eyed twerps pissed on his van.
What a bastard.
Killing for sport, food, and body parts are fine, but public urination is where this leathery leech draws the line. Was he going to let him go had he not whizzed on it? Anywho, as he frantically rushes to get help, he hits a nice jump, and yet still isn't faster than the flying menace. I think it's so funny how this is framed as if he whisked away not only the guy, but the bike too. It's so bad. But Galen, while repping that Carhartt merch, not sponsored, I wish, uncovers that sacred object that was buried beneath the soil. So was it A, buried treasure, B, a coyote corpse, C, a generic severed hand, or D, the last one? It was clearly that one. This scene that feels ripped directly from an episode of Ash vs. Evil Dead causes Anakin's severed hand to whisk her off the ground as if Vader was force choking her himself. And it gives her deadite eyes and just kind of holds there. You know, for a bit I've been clinging to for half a decade, this movie really makes it tough not to be under the influence.
A man drink like that and he don't eat, he is going to die.
When?
After devoting even more time to these stupid horses, they notice everyone hit the deck, and rather than do what I would have done if I saw that, dive for a bush, Justin from Waverly Place doesn't react as if this is at all out of the ordinary.
The old shuck and duck happens every Tuesday at the saloon.
Sean Gunn's meth head uncle forgot to turn off his ringer before the show. So Batmite takes Addison as collateral until he can behave. Ooh, look at that drone shot. That must have been where all the goddamn budget went. Plus, this one guy slams on the window with excellent comedic timing.
No.
Plop that in a current episode of SNL and you'd be set until the ad break.
What the hell's the matter?
Man, that line was delivered perfectly. I hate to say it, but I doubt that was acting. That was genuine.
What the hell's the matter?
Galen figures now is a good time for another backstory brunch, so she reveals that the guy from the opening actually managed to take off Thing, and that her boy was marked by the beast, just like Derry, because they got their filthy DNA on the creeper. And he's also now dead.
Fucking whoops.
And the idle hand is hiding in that, because that's a much cheaper effect to pull off. Back with the creep catchies, Addison and DJ from Monster House are strung up like rag dolls. And thankfully, this scaly bastard has knives all over the walls, so she escapes with ease. And Kurt exits this plane of existence.
Man, I'm dead.
God damn, this movie is boring. I bet you could down 100 energy drinks and still be snoozing by the 30-minute mark. Let me save everyone the time and fast forward past a chunk of worthless rambling.
Oh, like your video?
Oh, shut the fuck up. And whether you'd like to call it deja vu, a twisted turn of fate, or really strange timing, but it seems like every time I review one of these movies, the next one is always somehow not too far behind. So if any of the powers that be are to see this, here are 3 potential continuations and or storylines I'd love to see explored. Figured this would be more interesting than the actual movie. 1. This demonic douchebag has been around for years and years, right? So have a movie following his trials and tribulations throughout history. Could even frame out how he became an urban legend. 2. I can actually see this Suicide Squad type story actually working for Jeepers Creepers. Start off by actually fleshing out a team of a few or more who continue to shoot off parts of the guy, and as the body count rises, he has to keep stitching himself together. It could show his snarkiness and ingenuity, constantly having to MacGyver his way out of firefights, taking the aspects of the series that worked before, while hopefully adding a new twist. Unlike this movie, where nothing happens ever. 3. Have him fight alligators or something. He looks kind of reptilian, and since these are set in Florida, there certainly wouldn't be any trouble making it realistic. Sell it to sci-fi, make a few bucks, everyone's happy. Anyways, the sheriff recounts his recent hypnosis and brings up one more thing I feel they constantly are bringing up every 5 minutes, yet never elaborate or delve into further.
It's ancient.
My favorite scene from this saga will probably always be the opening to part 2. It's got such an unknown, eerie vibe to it, with the creeper slowly toying with this young kid, making himself and the audience question what, why, and how, and then before you know it, this ancient killing machine swiftly soars off with this little kid. One of the few taboo grounds that horror movies don't tend to cross often. It's equal parts genius as it's absolutely bone-chillingly terrifying, as it could easily be a surrogate for a loved one, friend, foe, or even yourself. What would you do if you were this boy? And somehow we're revving up on the 4th movie, and it seems like they have no idea what to do with this character. It's always the same vague rules, setups, jump scares, and worn-out scenarios, when he could easily go from mid-tier slasher to being one of the untouchables. This rotten fruit salad is in desperate need of fresh ideas, or I'm not sure how much longer it can keep treading water off the good graces of movies from almost 20 years ago. So, with the movie almost over and my patience clocking in at razor wire thin, they find the bad guy and his truck just can't stop upstaging him, shooting out these weird blue shell things. Now that I think of it, this vehicle is practically ripped right out of Mario Kart. Then we can finally pay off the Deus Ex minigun as this hillbilly tries his hardest at a cool action one-liner.
From my old man and 1,000 others, you ugly motherfucker!
But instead gets blown to bits from the ricochet and some of the worst computer-generated shit I've ever seen try to pass off as a legit film. Again, with very little room to talk. This is horrendous and should not be acceptable for a series that I'd go as far to say is fairly well known. Like, I would bet your mom has heard of these movies. I'll be sure to ask next time I'm over. The grumpy old men take cover as the creeper finally emerges, who looks crusty, dusty, and musty, rocking Max Duster and the silver-painted weapons that would put Party City stock to shame. Tubbs, again, that's his name and not a fat joke, is able to barely escape with his life, while Dan tries his hardest to blast the beast down. But Stormbreaker claims another life. After seeing this, Tubbs heads directly to Krispy Kreme. Okay, that was a fat joke. Nighttime arrives, meaning we can finally break out the production's one fog machine, and the Creeper manages to completely diminish any ounce of scariness he might have brought to this project by forgetting his own moronic truck traps and stabbing himself in the head.
Nice.
Not seeing that coming, he competes with Addison for the worst balance and agility in a horror movie, which is a pretty high honor to be considered for, since that trope's been around longer than the villain himself. One-Eyed Willie almost claims another final girl, but Rusty Nails silently sneaks up on the two and takes off another appendage. Instead of sticking around to swap insurance info, Creepenstein finds a homeless person's cardboard sign and destroys his fossilized hand. Glad we wasted so much of the runtime for that utterly useless bit. I've had more fun sitting around at a fucking railroad crossing waiting for the train to go by.
Get the fuck out of the way!
Wrapping up this terrible movie, the remaining players with names I've already given up on embrace for a hug, and we flash forward to a quick last-minute pity kiss. And this guy gets on a bus that, I've got a pretty strong hunch, is about to have a really bad evening. So long, buddy. Oh hey, that's his name!
Bye, buddy. Hope you find your dad.
Thanks, Mr. Narwhal.
But just in case you aren't already disappointed enough with this one, we get a shoehorned final tease for the next sequel, a la Cult of Chucky or whatever, where Trish returns to imply she'll be fighting the Brute next time. Too bad, just like the last time they tried this shit, we'll probably never in a million years see a resolution. Nah, fuck it. And that was Jeepers Creepers 3, and you know that feeling when you haven't eaten in hours, your stomach is starting to rumble, and you feel hyper-focused, ready to pounce? That's the feeling I had the entire time watching this movie. It ended, and I was overrun with a profound feeling of hollowness, emptiness, and realizing I just wasted my fucking time. The only, and I mean only thing to note from this hour and 45-minute root canal of a cinematic experience was that it had a few cool shots. That is all. Which is such a shame because I really wanted to say the series got back on track. Instead, it flew off the rails and exploded into a fiery ash. I mean, seriously, how is a movie that the fans have been acting like this over can manage to be both 90 minutes, yet feel like 6 seasons worth of a show where nothing happens? Thanks for waiting 14 years, fans. Fuck you. Where to even begin with what's wrong with this one? Because it's mainly just what I've been saying the whole review. Inconsistent acting, terrible story, bad music, generic locations, not a kill worth mentioning, aside that one. Special effects that are both practical, I think, and computer generated, making some of the worst visual content I've looked at through over 70 videos. This movie is somehow boring as can be and still stuffed with way more plot lines and other stupid bullshit than it needed. The subplot of Addison hunting for hay to feed the ranch's horse takes up so much runtime, I'd rename this movie GC3, Horsing Around. If the movie had been halfway decent and not a flaming garbage truck of misery and confusion, I'd be a little more forgiving at the biggest target of this review, both physically and metaphorically, because movies obviously consist of work from more than one degenerate, but the fact that it took nearly 15 years for this? What the fuck? Maybe now that the sludge-filled veins of this morally bankrupt man have left this series alone, this upcoming entry might fix the series, because it can't really go anywhere but up. I'm going to give Jeepers Creepers 33 1/3. Jonathan Breck's talents performing this character deserve better. And allow me to extend a personal apology to anyone on the cast and crew who had to suffer not only being a part of this mess, but having to deal with one of the most deplorable directors that makes my favorite genre look worse by him being associated with it. I'm Confused Reviews, and this one is directed at Vic. If somehow you sat through this entire video, taking every swing I threw at you and this bad movie, all I can say now,
go fuck yourself.
And thanks for watching.